Today, we're doing engineering.
Hi everyone, I am Miss Jess. I work with Miss Preyashi and Miss Nandini and Miss Maya at Wonderkids. I wanted to talk to you about the word STEM. So that stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So you'll notice our topic today, engineering, is one of those words. So it's not the same thing as science, but it's very related to science because they all come together to form STEM. Engineering is a little bit different. It's more about solving problems with the tools and the knowledge that we already have. So let's take a minute and think about some examples of engineering that's all around us.
A bike.
A bike, definitely.
A laptop.
A laptop for sure. There's so many different pieces and parts that go into making computers work. You got to make the screen work. You got to make sure programs can run. So definitely an engineer was involved in figuring all that out. Engineering is a big field that's made up of a lot of different individual smaller fields. So there are mechanical engineers. They work with things like cars or big building machines like cranes and tractors. There are medical engineers that help build new technologies that help doctors figure out what's going on inside of our bodies. What would you fix or create if you were an engineer?
I would create something like a robot that would help people that are like injured, like they can't walk.
Okay, we're gonna make a prototype of a car. Does anyone have any ideas about what is something that makes a car or something that without it the car does not work the way that it should?
Gas.
This is what we are going to pretend is our prototype car. And we've got things like lifesavers and buttons and beads, which are all round like wheels. And your job as engineers is to figure out the best way to connect the wheels to this car so that it can actually roll. Mine, it kind of rolls. I've got my lollipop sticks through the holes here, and I've attached the lifesavers, and I used Play-Doh to keep the lifesavers from falling off.
So we have an awesome guest speaker today. That's Miss Sasha Sproch, and she's going to tell us about her journey to being an engineer and all of the cool things that you get to do when you're an engineer.
So the first thing I want to ask is, before I talk about myself too much, is what is engineering?
Engineering is like people who build things, and there's like science engineers too. I mean, space engineers. Also mechanical engineering, and that's where like build cars.
I love it. So you're all correct. Engineers build things. They make buildings. They sometimes follow instructions or sometimes invent something new. They help people. And there's all kinds of engineers. The thing that I think is the key to engineering, and that is that you start with a big problem. So you want to solve something big. Maybe that's you want to build a rocket ship, or you want to build a boat, or you want to build a building. What do? You break it down into smaller problems. And so if you're building a rocket ship, maybe you start by thinking about, okay, well, what is the fuel going to be, and how big does it need to be, and how heavy is it going to be? And you start to break it down into little problems and then solve those problems and then bring it all together to make the final thing. Who knows what this shape is called? If I go like this, could anyone tell me what some of the pieces of this shape are?
A
triangle and a diamond.
An X, a square.
Love it. Square or a diamond.
Semicircle.
Triangle.
I heard a triangle.
A semicircle.
But you'll see that when we started with that big problem, nobody could answer the question. But once we broke it down, we got almost all of them immediately. So the area of engineering that I work on right now is called human-computer interaction. How does a human interact with a computer? A computer thinks in ones and zeros and it runs programs, and a human is kind of squishy. We talk about things and we move our arms and our hands and how do we interact with a computer? Well, this is another big problem. So we can break it down into pieces. I'll start you off with the first one. We use a mouse. We look
A camera.
into our camera. Yes, exactly. And then another thing is we look at the screen. And sometimes that screen is also a touch screen. So we could look at and touch the screen. And my job as an engineer is to make sure that those work. I have a question for you. This is how you all interact with the computer. But what if you didn't have any arms?
You can
You
just
could
unmute
use your
Mila when you're
feet.
ready.
Yes, you could use your feet. I love that answer. You could use a pedal.
Ed.
So you might use your feet to type on a keyboard, but that's really hard to do. You have to have a lot of dexterity in your toes. I have one more I want to show you that you might not know about. You could actually use your eyes. So this is fairly new technology, but it's one of the projects that I got to work with a whole team of engineers on. And the way this works is you get a special camera with some extra sensors that you use instead of your webcam, and then it watches your eyes and it looks for whether you're looking up or down or left or right, and it can actually see your pupils where you're looking, and it can follow where you're looking. And so it will move your mouse to the spot where you're looking. And then when you blink really hard, then that will be like clicking and it'll click the button. So we call these things assistive technology.
How long does it take to be like a professional engineer?
Most people do 4 years of school to become an engineer, although some people will do only, 4 years of college, I should say. So everybody does your K through 12. After your 12th grade, then you go to college. And college, there's a couple of different options. So some people will only do 1 or 2 years. Most people will do 4 years of college, and that's you get like your base engineering degree. And then some people will do even more to get an advanced degree. So they might get a master's or a PhD in a particular area. But with a team of people where we were all working together or building a piece of a whole, I would say I've made, I made these pens. We made millions of these. We made the computer program that talks to computer, like that reads out the screen reader that reads out the content of the screen for blind people. I made some pieces of OneNote, that immersive reader that you saw. So that's 3. I'm going to go ahead and answer my own question, which is what I love about engineering. The first is that I get to explore and I'm always learning. So this is something that I got to see. Does anyone know what this is?
A rocket ship?
Yeah, it's basically a part of a rocket ship. So this is called a command module. And this is the Apollo 8 command module. So this might be the biggest thing that I've built or I've worked on as an engineer. So this is a vacuum chamber and it's enormous. It's hundreds of pounds and it's hanging from chains from the ceiling so that it doesn't get disturbed by people walking around, or if there's an earthquake or something, it stays still. And if you look inside, it's this vacuum chamber. So we suck away all of the air, so it's completely empty. And then we put a couple molecules of something in, different elements every time. And then we shoot lasers at it and we measure the results. We see what happens when we shoot lasers at these individual molecules floating around in this chamber. So the third and last thing that I love about being an engineer is that I get to help people. This is my friend Steve. And Steve has a disease that makes it so even though he has arms and legs, he can't use them. Normally, if he wanted to get around, he would have to have someone push him around in a wheelchair. But we wanted to give him the ability to move around by his own choice. We took that eye gaze, that eye tracking technology, and we mounted it on this little arm thing that sat in front of him, and we turned it on and set it up so that when he would look at a spot that he wanted to go and then blink and he could go there, and then it would control his wheelchair and it would drive him there. So it gave him back some of his autonomy.